Hello,
Hello.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, hang on. 1 second. I have to essentially put these onto here. And can you
Are we
hear me?
alone? Yes, I can.
Yeah, it's just us
Oh.
for now, which is quite all right. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
You know, it's 2 days away from the holidays, Stefania. So, it's if you can't tell, there's gift wrapping going on over here, right there.
What is it?
Yeah, it's just basically a corner. So there's not much gifts there, but there's plenty of stuff happening. So eventually it's going to get there, but yeah, that's going to be pretty busy in about a couple hours. This will be my one webinar I'm going to be doing where everyone's going to be. Well, we'll probably get through it pretty fast. It'll be similar to what we did at the beginning of the month, but it's going to be slightly different in that I have an actual challenge that I'm putting up, not necessarily something that we explore, but something that we can consider. So it's going to be for Habitat for Humanity. So that should be pretty fun. But I'll make it worth your time. Did you see part one? Were you part of the first one?
Yes, I was there.
Okay. So some of that's going to be repeated in the beginning, but depending on who's here, I may breeze through that and get right to the meat of the market, which is the challenge. So I'll take stock of who's actually into this, and then we can go from there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'll start this one up. I know we're already on live on YouTube, but I figured if nothing else, they can find out for themselves. Okay. So hello, everyone. This is the part 2 of the Adventures in Pretotyping webinar that we're doing for the Global Virtual Design Sprint Community of Practice. My name is Robert Scrobe. I'm here in Dallas, Texas. I do virtual sprints and pretotyping. And with me is Stefania Laventure. Do I say it? How do you say your last name correctly?
L'Aventure.
Oh, I almost got it right.
You have to train, I think.
Yes, I need some time to get it right. Stefania, do you want to give a brief introduction to who you are?
Stefania, I am living in Frankfurt, and I am a product owner, and I am advising startups companies.
Okay. And do you have a headache? Are you okay?
I am at my stepmother, so that's why I'm a little bit nervous.
Oh, okay. That's fine. I'm not going to shout. So there's not going to be any like protracted kind of yelling that's going to happen. So I think we're all right. Verena, you're also here. It's so funny. I just saw you a minute ago. I can't remember from where, but somewhere.
Yeah, we keep crossing paths lately, right?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. But so why don't you give a brief introduction to yourself as well? Where are you calling in from, and what do you do?
I'm calling in from Frankfurt, Germany. And I'm super interested in anything that has to do with innovation and product, and that's why I joined the design sprint, not the last one, but the one from May, and heard about pretotyping, but still am very at the beginning of trying to understand this concept and this method.
Okay, so were you here for part 1 that we did earlier in the month?
I was here for one of the events that they did last week, but or was it the week before?
It wasn't. I think.
Yeah, I don't.
You are the startup pretotyping for startups.
Okay,
exactly.
Got it.
Yeah,
got it. Okay, cool. And Americo, I wonder who you are. Your name looks awfully familiar, and it's alliterative with the AA. So why don't you give a brief intro who you are and where you're coming from, what you're all about?
Well, I'm from Lisbon, Portugal. I'm all about taking part in these sessions with you and Verena and Stefania, people from GVDS community. And that's it. For now, it's okay.
All right. So I feel like this first part of this presentation is going to be strictly for Verena. So it's going to kind of go over what she's normally already knows about about pretotyping, or at least it's going to kind of go through that. But for the sake of people that are watching this in the future and watching it right now, I'll be going through an overview of the pretotyping process. I'll be kind of going over a pretotyping experiment I did with MiroMasters as a way of illustrating the steps that you take for kind of doing a pretotype, or one example of doing one. And then everyone on the panelist side here is going to be building their own experiment, but I took a cue from a couple of people in part one, and Mariko, if you remember the Habitat for Humanity challenge that you posted up in the Slack channel, we're actually going to be taking that on as part of this exercise. So we're going to be actually reflecting and reacting to an actual challenge that's out there. So what I'm going to do first is, for everyone that's on the call, I'm going to go ahead and share out the link to the mural that we're going to be using, so that you're not just going to be staring at a screen. If you want to go ahead and jump and take a look at other parts of the mural, you're more than welcome to do so. So let me go ahead and put that in for all the panelists' sides so I can take a look, and then I'll go ahead and share my screen to kind of go through the presentation over here. And there we go. Okay. So does everyone on that side, including Mary Beth Hill, who's visiting us on the attendee side, do you see community of practice adventures in pretotyping? Do you see that up on your screen? Okay.
Yep.
It looks like everyone's made it over to the other side. So this first part, I'll be briefly going over the origins of pretotyping, going into how it's kind of come about, who its original inventor was, and all of that fun stuff. So for some of this is going to be old hat, but for the people that are new to this is probably going to be pretty informative. In that pretotyping, I'm not saying prototyping, it's pretotyping. What it is, it's meant to be a set of tools and techniques that helps you validate an idea in the market quickly, objectively and accurately. So it essentially uses data rather than opinions at its core. It was originally developed in 2010 by Alberto Savoia, who calls himself an innovation agitator. He basically created something called the Unleash the Innovators Manifesto. The first particular one that he had done was in PDF format. So about a little over 10 years ago, he basically put out a PDF. So the Pretotype It was what it was called. It's featured here. And for anyone on the panelist side, you can double click on it, and that's a direct link to the original PDF that he had done. And as he was working through this over at Stanford, he collaborated with a number of people, most notably Richard Cox, Tina Seelig, and others, who were lecturing back then to refine and adjust his approach, and then basically started teaching it to students. So he went through the motions of taking this concept that he had about his experiences with failing in the market and trying to counter it through a process that he had done where he just uses strict data and gets away from opinions. That manifested into a book that he released a couple of years ago called The Right It, where basically it's a combination of what you see in the PDF and then particular products in the marketplace that mimic what pretotyping is all about. Goes through kind of a rundown of how to do your own pretotypes. And to complement that, Leslie Berry over at Exponentially created a Slack channel for people in the community to check out what that's all about. And if you, again, on the panel side, if you double click on that, you should be able to get straight to the Slack channel. And you can get direct access to both Leslie and Alberto when they have time to kind of engage the community about not only the process, but how to write an XYZ hypothesis, market engagement hypothesis, and other things we'll be going over today. Same one on the panelist side, and this will be available for people afterwards. After the recording, these links will be here. These are all different links to all the different resources that we'll be either touching upon or talking about today. So there's the Right It book on the far left. There's the Stanford presentation he gave on pretotyping that I first saw when I was in the Department of Motor, the DMV in Dallas getting my license plates. I won't get into that. It's a long story. But there's other things here, such as pretotyping.org, which is a general information site. Me and Sandy Lamb did an interview with Alberto a while back. And there's also some other referential links that were put in for part one. I think Alberto submitted the Pretotyping at Work link, where this is a piece by Jeremy Clark that gets into some specifics around how pretotyping can be applied and the different ways it can be. Something that we adopted or recently for the Dash was the get to 10 technique that Alberto is kind of promoting as a way of testing your pretotype and seeing when it gets to a certain threshold. But again, for the people that signed up to be panelists, these are all here for you to kind of click on and peruse, especially if you've been through this presentation before, so you don't have to necessarily rehash what you've heard previously. Before I go on, is there any kind of questions from the panelists or from the people that are watching right now about anything that's up here in this first part about an overview? Anything that I glossed over that you'd like more details? You can put that in the Q&A in Zoom. You can go right ahead and put that in chat as well if you'd like to. Hi, Muhammad. And also, if you have an interest in being on the panelist side with us, just go ahead and put that into chat, or you can message me direct, and then I can make the switch over here on Zoom. If you're on YouTube, feel free to post comments anytime between now and the end of this session, and I'll get to them as I see them. Usually YouTube doesn't have any pop-ups for me to look at, so I have to occasionally glance over and see what's going on. So any questions or comments at this point? I'm checking the chat real fast. Schumann wants to come over to the panelist side. I haven't seen her in a while. Hang on. All right, I'll bring you over just one second. And okay. So Schumann should be joining us in just a second. And for reference, Schumann, you originally were part of the Global Virtual Design Sprint previously. So do you want to give an introduction to everybody here on who you are, where you're coming in from, and what you do for a living?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. I'm Shuming. I'm from Taiwan. I live in Paris, France, and I'm working as a UX designer in a B2B SaaS company. So hi there.
Very glad you could join us. Yeah, let me go ahead and I'll send the link out to everyone. I just put the panelists before, but I'll send it out because Mary Beth was asking about it. Okay, so Mohammed, I'll bring you over. 1 second. After a while, it's a struggle with Stoom to kind of go through the chat window, then the panelists window, participants, and making sure that everybody has a home. So Mohammed, since we're in the middle of doing introductions, whenever you're ready, go ahead and tell us what you're all about, where you're coming in from, and what you do for a living. And by the way, that background is still spectacular, so don't change it. Keep with it.
Thank you, Robert. Well, first of all, I missed you all, so it's been a long time. I'm basically working as a product manager. I'm living in Lebanon, and I got introduced to Pretotype in the GVDS, as you know, and we experienced it in the Dash together. So very exciting. This is my first session in the community of practice for the Pretotype. So yeah, thank you so much.
Extremely talented individual. I'll lump that on there. I know you don't like me kind of promoting that, but it's like, dude was over the top in the GVDS last time. So anyway, let's see. I'll just check chat one more time and see if anyone's there. So Schumann says hi, Mohammed. Okay. So let's get a bit into an actual experiment that I did this month with pretotyping. And I wanted to share this because it's one thing to read the book and get the examples that are there, but it's quite another to kind of see all of the nuances and the details that go into pretotyping. And I thought it might be good to showcase my own experience with this and kind of showcase how I kind of went about the whole deal. So the first thing I'd like to do is based on MiroMasters, which is essentially a service for people who know Miro to connect with people that are looking for small jobs where people need whiteboards or small things for, say, events like, I'm forgetting, I had an example in the back of my mind for one, but it's basically different events that people need them for, or different situations. Maybe they need style guides, maybe they need for a tour show. But what I found is that people were looking for small jobs that didn't require a huge contract. And I decided, okay, well, why don't we see if the market actually wants this kind of thing, wants to, now for the designers, not only to find work, but also for people to find the right designer for the small job that they have. So I started with, let's start with the related experiences that I've had. So things that spoke to what MiroMasters could be and how they influenced my thinking. The two that I want to point out in my past was the referral network, where right on the hot heels of the GVDS, there were a lot of design sprint facilitators looking for work. I set this up so that we could interview them, find out what their price point was, and see if there was any availability for people that wanted to do that wanted to find these sorts of talent. But there was no market for it back then. It was just us basically in a bubble speaking to one of us. But it was one of those things I wish I could have known pretotyping. It would have saved me a lot of time and money. Multiple startups in the past. So I've been doing startups ever since I was in my mid-20s. I've been doing them on and off for the past 2 decades, but there are certain things that I've learned through those experiences that spoke to how I would approach this particular service. The big thing is that it's number 4 down here, where it says humans require understanding and connection before any business can be done. That's usually very true in face-to-face, but I find that there is some sort of measurement stick that everyone has in terms of trust to figure out what the person's all about, what they're into, and whether or not they can relate to one another. And I think that sometimes forms the backbone of those transactions that happen, is not the transaction itself, unless it's like just for products, pure products. This one is more of a service. So then I took stock beyond my own experiences on what I could do. So there are 4 things that I think I'm pretty competent in. I've been doing design all my life. I used to sketch things with a pencil freehand when I was 6. I did that for years and years and years and years and years. I would do portraits. I wasn't the guy that you would see in state fairs that would basically for $10 draw your portrait, but I could illustrate almost anything. I still can a little bit today, but not as well as I used to. Been through a lot of agencies, so I kind of the design thing down. Coding, also been doing it since my mid-20s. I did it for my first startup. I went through all the pains of HTML, JavaScript, Flash, and all of that. And today I do C# when I'm doing day trading scripts. So I got code covered. Usability and user experience. I was on the board of directors for UPA. I was an evangelist for user experience when it first came out. Not so much today, but I knew all about conducting interviews and so on. So I got that down. Analytics and forms has been an ongoing learning experience because the tech has just been, it's been rapidly evolving every single year. Every single time there's something new that turns around the corner. And this is something ongoing. So this is something that I'm still on a huge learning curve. But since I have a background in analytics, it's pretty easy to kind of hook everything in the back end to figure out what's working and what isn't. So the 2 things to take away from this is that you're going to want to think of where you've been and what you learned, and then what you can reasonably do that can feed the prototype, that can actually make it real, that in a way that makes sense to you, and that you can quickly get something into the market for people to evaluate. Now with MiroMasters, the market engagement hypothesis for this was based on an actual transaction that had happened between someone I know and someone who was looking for a Miro designer. So I literally reframed my engagement through this. And then I started getting a bit more refined in terms of where I was going to go. So LinkedIn, I figured creative directors would be a good start. But then I even went further and said functional managers were responsible for hiring design contractors, which I found that somebody else was inquiring when I first discussed it. So instead of finding the executive that was looking for a resource, I went after the actual process of hiring people. So this was my hypothesis, knowing that I could fall back on a different audience. And if you want to know what this looks like, it's basically this. It's a subpage that exists on my main site. So DallasDesignSprints.com is my business. Introducing MiroMasters is this subpage that exists on Webflow, where it really has only 2 or 3 outs. And there's Get Started Today or Start a Conversation. And then there's everything else down here, which is my social stuff. So for here, I basically click on Get Started Today, and it starts a form that I can pre-select. So this is pre-selected. It's looking for a Miro designer, but you can say I'm a Miro designer looking for work. You describe what kind of person you're looking for. It says they have to breathe, just for fun. And then after that, it's like, how soon do you need this person? And the timeline basically is important in terms of if it's as soon as possible, then I need to contact them in 24 hours. It's in a couple weeks, couple months, different kind of engagement. But that's how I gauge my own personal time and skin in the game to get back to people. So I say, sometime this year, which is going to be 2021 when it launches. What's a professional email address to contact you at? This is just by default, but I put in here as an example. But this is something where you can put in your email address, and then I'll know if somebody is basically putting skin in the game. If they put in like Gavin at mailinator.com, which is a email service site that you can get fake emails from, I know this isn't something legit. So when I get past that and I ask for the LinkedIn address, that's usually the counterpunch to say, okay, is this person real? Beyond the email address that they give me. Once I get all that information, I can actually start a conversation about what they're looking for. And all of that is human. So it's very high touch, but that's the point. I want to get data directly from the people that are inquiring about this to understand what they understood about the service, what they want from it, what would be an engagement that they like. And I document all of that because that will feed back into the service that I'm going to be creating through MiroMasters. What people are understood about it and what they want from it. So that's the example for MiroMasters. And then this was the recipe, and I documented this as I was doing it, of how to go about creating a subpage in the domain that I was. And it ended up being about 10, including the marketing, but the pretotype goal being 10 responses in less than 5 days. So relatively for me, this took about half a day to get it all done. And the check with 1 to 3 people in your network for spelling errors and understanding of the service, I had a bit of an advantage in that I have a whole community that if I need to tag someone or ask somebody in Slack, I can do that. But in LinkedIn, people were also very generous with their time over a 24-hour period. And I figured I could hit all I can cut away the things that didn't make sense, check for any spelling errors, make sure the design's right, and I was good to go. The results is that I actually thought it was going to be 5 days to get 10 responses. I got 11 responses in 28 hours. Part of that is also because I reached out to my own personal network and not necessarily outside of that. If you were to break it down to like outside network, it ended up being about 6 responses. So, and then later on after I did this, we're now up to 36. So there is some traction in the market with this. The follow-up is basically what I explained here before. The level 2 or the next pretotype is going to be putting a little bit more skin in the game, fleshing out the opportunity, making it seem more legit and believable, and then running more experiments to try to get to that 20 response threshold and see if I can start a dialogue about connecting people together. So that's where I am with the MiroMasters pretotype, but this is kind of like a really high level view of everything that I considered when I did the pretotype. From soup to nuts, getting it together took a week to get it all done and to basically give my unconscious brain time to think about everything and script this out. If I didn't have to script it out, probably it would take about 2 or 3 days, tops, to kind of get this done. Does anyone on the panelist side or anyone watching elsewhere on YouTube or just basically viewing this have any questions about this particular pretotype experiment that you'd like some more understanding about? Go ahead, Mohammed.
Yeah, so basically the result, what was the try meter, if I can say? It's basically, what was the result from those experiments?
When you say dry meter, what do you mean by that?
Try meter is basically introduced in the write-it is like very likely the likelihood of succeed of this experiment you did. What is the result? How did you measure it? Is it like likely, very likely, 50-50? From the result you got?
I didn't necessarily put it through that filter yet that I made later on. I just wanted to hit that 10 response limit in terms of who was going to respond to it. When I hit that, then I figured, okay, there's life at the end of the other end. And I didn't necessarily put it through any kind of percentages or put it through that that formula that Alberto has in terms of the likelihood of success. That will probably come into play when I have more data or I have more numbers around it, so I can start making some meaningful calculations on the likelihood of success and then adjust my kind of engagement appropriately.
Okay, and are you like planning to iterate on this pretotype or expand on it?
Yes, so that's kind of a little bit in the results there. I'll kind of zoom in again. This is going to happen in January. The page is going to be updated with new information along with more details like what they would expect, both from a designer and from a client side. Refine the intended audience types and kind of go to the places where they hang out to start establishing some social contacts. So if we're talking about people that are looking for trade show resources, where do they typically go to kind of talk about who they're going to be? Is it LinkedIn? Is it particular groups on Facebook? Kind of do a little bit of like roaming around to see where those conversations are happening, what people are asking about. And don't go there and just promote and say, I got a service. It's more like, walk a mile in their shoes to figure out what they're concerned about, because that will inform how I kind of market and approach this service. And then bump up the response rate within 5 days once the experiment comes out, probably in mid-January is where I'm thinking.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Oh, hang on. There's been a Q&A sighting. What if you're also trying to keep the concept a secret? Then I think your testing range is probably going to be also secret as well. It's going to be probably contained. Let's say you're a company that deals with R&D and you have certain products and services that are, if your competitors got wind of them, could easily copy them. Then there's probably a more structured, closed environment for kind of testing these things out. Maybe existing clients would appreciate on the sales side, get firsthand knowledge of what you're creating. So they don't necessarily aren't going to say they're going to purchase something, but through their actions, they'll say, okay, this I'll do, this I won't. And they'll be much more probably direct. That was Chris Federer who gave the question that would be probably my answer. I know that Alberto has said in the past that really it doesn't really matter what you put out there as long as you're trying to test the concept, but knowing that there's certain industries that thrive on secrecy and don't want to give away any of their competitive advantage, that tends to be very close, contained kind of engagements with existing customers and potential clients as a way of wooing them in. So hopefully that answers your question, Chris. If not, you can come back and tell me that it didn't. So check in the chat for anything else before we move on. Frizzo Jankowski also says, what do you think in regards to MiroMasters? How many rounds of Preto would you run to then iterate it through a sprint with a high fidelity prototype? I would think that for me, Frizzo, the line, the Rubicon, the line that I would cross is when it became too big for me to manage by myself. When I thought that this needed probably to evolve into a different form and that I needed more perspective and potentially bringing people in to help run it. That's where I think that would be like where the opportunity is there, but just me being me and trying to do what I do, I have this much bandwidth and the opportunity requires this much. That's when I would pull the trigger on doing something like a sprint or a lean startup kind of mode. So hopefully that helps. This is also the route I take. Okay. So yeah, Frizzo Jankowski is for reference as a GVDS alum as well. So good. All right, if there's no more questions or comments, then I'll move on to the actual experiment that we're going to be doing today. So on the panelist side, I'm going to zoom in here and bring you all over to my view on what I'm doing here. So in this last part here, we're going to be co-creating an experiment in this session. Now, before, what we did is we basically we went through and we kind of explored some topics that we might want to be interested in, but I'm being a little bit more succinct this time around, so that there's a Habitat for Humanity challenge that's listed here. And what you want to do is double click on the link that's featured right over here on the far left next to the gray cards. And I want you to take a look at that. And this is the challenge that we're going to be kind of concerning ourselves with for the next half hour, 40 minutes. Take some time to look at it. And as you look at it, what you want to do is use these gray cards as notes. So if I open it up in my browser over here, and I think you can still see it in the play, there's an abstract that kind of gets into the challenge overview, gets a detailed description, what they're looking for in terms of like the kind of information they need, and from like the solvers, they call them, to give them some information. And they also say to receive an award, the solvers will not have to transfer their exclusive intellectual property rights to the seeker. So there's all sorts of things to consider. But what I'd like you to do is, back on the mural, put in and double click on a gray card, something important that you glean from this challenge that you want to make sure that you keep with you after we move on to a different step. So an example would be, if we're talking about this, you could say that the deadline for this particular challenge, the deadline to submit a challenge solution for this challenge is January 5th, 2021. So that's probably something important to know. Another thing, if I went back to the incentive website and kind of put down here, it says that the submission to the challenge should include the following: a detailed description of the proposed solution addressing specific technical requirements. So I just copy and paste that, bring it back over here, double click on the gray card, put that in there, and I'll say the solution requires a detailed description. So that's an example of basically taking what you see in this and making it a card note for reference. Consider these to be notes. Now you can also use this space besides notes to put in your initial thoughts about the challenge. Like one thing I saw when I said this, we're going to need some subject matter experts to talk to about this, right? Because for me, this is out of my vein of knowledge, but I know that I'm going to need to basically like go in and find some people that I can get some perspective on in order to be able to do solutions. So that can be something that's part of the prototyping process for the sake of the experiment now. We don't necessarily need to worry about that. So take a few minutes to kind of put in some notes based on what you see here in the Habitat for Humanity, the challenge that's specified here. And we'll come back after about 3 minutes and see what people have put up here. And then we'll have a short discussion about the challenge to see how each of us kind of interprets it. Okay? So take 3 minutes and we'll see what you come up with. And if you have any questions between now and then, feel free to speak up and let me know. And what I'll do is I'll also put in the URL to everyone that's in the call. So give me a second, I'll find the chat window. There's that. And over on YouTube, I'll also put that there as well. Nope. There you go. Does anyone on the panelist side need more time? If you do, go ahead and put your hand up. If you don't, I'll assume that you've gotten all the notes you need from this particular challenge. All right. So if I were to ask any of you what this challenge is, if you could say it in one sentence, what would it be? Any of you can come off a microphone and basically just give a shot at it. Doesn't have to be accurate because this is an experiment, or well, I would say it's a simulation. So say in one sentence what you think this challenge is all about.
It's about how to retrofit houses, their structures, to make them more resistant to earthquakes and natural hazards.
Okay. And
I would add in a cheap way, or like cost efficiently, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you were to explain it even further, would you add any details that are relevant? Anything that stuck out for you? And again, I'll kind of type this out as we go. Or do you think that this card is enough?
I think they basically ask for what humanity now achieve in the engineering and architecture technology. So,
Can you say that again, Mohammed?
So I think what they are asking basically or searching is what like the humanity or the technology came up with till now by using the engineering and the architecture's technologies. I mean, when I read like fast the article, the first thing came in my mind is basically something like 3D printing technology. It's fast, cost effective. I don't know.
Okay. Would that be accurate in terms of how I structured that, Mohammed? Would you change that at all?
Yeah, basically like this.
Okay.
With innovative, to come up with innovative solutions, basically, not a different one.
All right, so I will take this. And if you look at the ideas to address this particular challenge, we kind of hinted that there could be 3D printing technology. But based on all of your backgrounds, what kind of ideas do you have that could address this particular challenge? How to retrofit houses to make them more resistant to earthquakes and natural hazards in a cost-efficient way. So this may be out of your depth of knowledge, which may be a good thing because you're thinking from the outside looking in. But what I'd like you to do is take a few minutes to generate some ideas. They could be bold, wacky, out of touch, practical, whatever you'd like. You don't have to think of the ideal solution. Just put some things that come into your head in terms of something here that you think would be ideas for this particular thing. And let's give you about 3 minutes for this as well and see where we are with things. So again, go ahead and put in some ideas that you think would address the challenge here and see where it goes from here. And I'll be right back. I'm helping my son with his gift wrapping. So when you hear the bong, you'll see me come into view again.
May I say I have a bit of a deja vu of kind because I once had to retrofit a foundation for wind farms and it was not cost efficient at all.
About what, Rihanna? Sorry?
No, I'm working in wind farms, and we once had a wind farm that needed to like strengthen the foundations after it was built, and it was not cost efficient at all.
Yeah.
But there were also ideas like anchors and such things that might be used, maybe.
Hello. Okay, so it looks like we have a few ideas here. Let me zoom in a bit. So it looks like you can read along with me. So as we kind of go through this, there's some research local materials, building techniques for cost-efficient solutions. There's look at the natural area, build houses in appropriate areas. When you're looking at things like I am, is there one in particular that you want to get more information about, that you're kind of interested in understanding more? Go ahead and take a look at these and see if there's one in particular that you'd like to call out to say, okay, what do you mean by this? Or can you explain a bit more about your idea with this? So one thing I see here is there's using waste as material to manufacture solutions locally. Who was the author of that one?
That was me. I was just basically thinking along the lines of the 3D printing. Like if you want to do 3D printing, you need this material that goes into the printer. And I once came across a startup that wanted to use like basically plastic waste to manufacture these filaments that you need. You need a lot of material if you want to retrofit millions of houses. So just thinking about the supply chain for that.
Okay. And who was the person that put these 3D printed structures can make buildings earthquake proof? Who was the person that put that there?
Yeah, me.
Okay.
If this allowed. So basically, I saw an article. It's how to build such a structure by using the cement itself. So it's basically how you layer those cement. It will be like very resistant to earthquake.
Okay.
So it was a nice article.
So it's very similar to this one comment here where it says using flexible materials, cement and plastic to replace house components. Okay. There's a question here. It says, how did former generations deal with these challenges? Who was the person that asked this question?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it's the feeling the former generations dealt with those challenges, and we forgot about it. So it was like we have to get inspired from the elders.
Okay. So you're suggesting that there's some narrative, a historical narrative with this, where you can kind of look at what people have done previously and see where that goes.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Who was the person that put, are there solutions in the animal plant kingdom, spider birds, bird nests that can serve as a model? Who was the person that put that one in?
That was me. I kept thinking about like, you know, either how you can keep things together or how you can suspend them with like, you know, really like a spider web.
Okay. All right. And let's see here. Working with some Asian countries, foundations having dealt with these kind of problems. Again, who was the author of this?
It was me.
Okay.
Yeah, because I come from Taiwan, and the country nearby, like Japan, they have a lot of problem like earthquake and also the earthquake and typhoon. So they have I think they have a lot of experience about building this kind of house. And also in Taiwan, I heard about many like a humanity foundation. They came to some country like Philippines to help building the house. So I think they have some solutions.
Okay. And Stefania, what were some of the cards you put up here?
Sorry?
I'm saying, what were some of the cards that you put up here before?
I look at the natural areas before you build a house.
So kind of getting the topographical view of like the foundation of where you're going to be putting something.
Yeah, because my experience is that the natural areas, like some trees, are better to fight the natural weather.
Okay. While we're talking, you can do what America's doing. You can also basically put in any kind of thoughts that you're having from here. I'm going to take some time and just kind of take the ones that aren't questions. I'm going to mark those as potential voting things. So I'm going to mark them as yellow, actually. Or, yeah, we'll do them in here. Nope, we'll go back to yellow. It's a little bit easier. Let's see, because there's questions mixed in with the answers, which normally, as putting on my facilitator hat, would lead me to think that we want to do an exploration into the problem space to kind of look at what other people have done and similar questions that we're doing here. So I see a lot of pre-built materials locally. It's kind of outlining them in yellow. And Frizzle wants to make sure he puts his name known to his solutions. Let's see, investigate, do. Okay. Any other things that you want to put up here? Do this. Okay. So the next thing to do is, out of everything that I highlighted in yellow, which ones are duplicates? Which ones seem to be like saying the same thing, but in a different way? Go ahead and just, all you have to do is just select any one of those and give it a different color. So if we're talking about using flexible materials here and using flexible materials here, it's highlighting both of those and making them orange, for example. But they both speak to kind of like the same solution. And I'll take care of the cards that are not being used.
No, it is not. Alden, leave. 1, 2, thank you.
Okay. Let's go ahead and make this one here. I'm going to take these two down, or these three. I'm going to put them over here and make them into their own row. Except for this. This looks like this has here. Okay. First, I'm going to put this back to yellow because it looks like it doesn't have a match. At least it did. Okay. Okay. So what I like to do next is like to go ahead and look at these. Was it 14? And we have 6 people on the panelist side, 5. I like to give everyone, say, we're going to go 14. Let's say everyone give 3 votes. So let's do a blind voting session here. You want to vote on your top 3, and then we'll take the top 2 and bring them over to the next space. So you're going to be voting on just the yellow cards that you see here. Okay. If you've never done voting in Miro, you're going to see a pop-up that basically asks you to put in your vote, your ideas for the, you're voting for your ideas. So you should see a prompt that'll ask you to click on the card to vote on it, shift click to remove your vote. No one's going to see your mouse move or what you vote on until all the votes have been cast. For reference, I will not be voting myself. All right, I think everyone's voted who did vote, who wanted to vote. I'll go ahead and end the voting session, see where we end up. And it looks like we have 3 actually. Using waste as material to manufacture solutions locally. explore resistant materials available locally and using flexible materials. So I think what I'm going to do is take the one that opted for 4 and another one that was 3. I'm going to make these 2 the ones we move forward with. We would probably have some conversation about which ones we'd like to kind of consider, but for the purposes of the presentation, I'll do it this way. Just give me 1 minute while I transfer some of the information over to this part 3 over here. The rest of these exercises are going to be optional for the panelists to do. You don't necessarily have to do all of them. This is only if you feel comfortable doing so. Again, let me, oops. Go ahead and take this, put it over there. And this one over here for number 3. So who was the author of Using Waste as Material to Manufacture Solutions? I think we already went through this, but who was the person again?
Me.
Okay. Can you repeat the explanation you had before about what that was all about?
So it basically ties into the idea of 3D printing. Sorry. So using 3D printing with cheap source material that can be harvested, so to speak, locally and manufactured locally by using, for instance, plastic waste. And since we are looking at the Philippines, why not look at ocean plastics?
Okay. And you said it was, I'm sorry, what was the location again? The Philippines, right?
Yeah, the challenger said they were focusing on the Philippines for now.
Is it just 1L? It's 1L. Okay. I'm using flexible materials, cement and plastic to replace house components. Who is this?
It's mine.
So what was the thinking behind it, Americo?
The thinking is there are some materials that are more flexible than others, like cement is known as one of those plastic materials that you can give shapes and that you can adapt. For housing structures, you need to combine them with iron, so it can be really flexible. But we may replace it with plastic, and that's the proposition.
Okay, cool. The reason why I did the kind of the detail to this is that sometimes the card itself doesn't give enough context. So what I've been doing is taking just a couple of minutes to basically get the thinking around the card so you can get some proper context. Okay, like I said, this is going to be an optional exercise for the panelist side. This is taking directly from Alberto Savoya's approach to market engagement hypothesis. So there's going to be a short sentence that you're going to write that would basically describe the market engagement with the audience that you're thinking about. If you want some examples, you can go all the way over to the right, and here's some ones that came directly from the book. The original idea and what the market engagement hypothesis would be, with basically, if this thing existed, then these particular people would probably do this action. And there's both Netflix, Cheapo Sushi, and Webvan. They're all given as examples. You want to try to aim for 1, 2 to 4 sentences, 4 sentences at the max. You can usually do it in 2 sentences if you need to. The example here is just basically 1 sentence, but some people tend to want to really describe their idea in more verbose fashion, which is fine. So just grab a box that you find that's open. And since we have 5, I'm going to take out these ones down here. Go ahead and just double click on the text that's in the market engagement hypothesis and try writing one of your own. Don't worry about getting it right. This is just an exercise to practice the concept of doing a market engagement hypothesis. After everyone's done, in about, say, I'll give another 3 minutes to see where everyone's at. We'll take a look at what's been written and kind of go over a couple of them and see if there's one in particular we want to move forward into the next step. Okay?
All right.
Oh, sorry, Frizzo, I didn't see you. I posted some things in here. My fault. And I'll include something that Tatiana Hernandez put in here. And include that. That's not showing up. Thank you for including that, Tatiana. I'm sorry I didn't see that before. Okay. I'll actually give a couple more minutes because it looked like some people were still going. So we'll add 3 more minutes to this. Okay. Lisa, your question was, what are you using for people to leave these comments in Miro? Are these text areas? Lisa, are you describing what you're seeing on the screen in the share where people are putting in their market engagement hypothesis? If so, those are text areas. Yeah, those are just basically the boxes are just outlines, but the texts are overlays to those. And I believe that the boxes themselves were locked to the white space. Now, if you're waiting and you're done with your particular market engagement hypothesis, what you can do is down in step 4, which is down below, you can basically copy and paste your market engagement hypothesis in the area where it says MEH and underneath the example MEH, so that you can get ready to do a WXYZ experiment or a WXYZ kind of exercise to kind of get a little bit more specific about how you're going to be engaging the market. And if you're not sure where to go, I'll lead you there. Okay, so we have one person still working on theirs, which is totally fine. Looks like we have 4 in general. So yeah, do you want to copy and paste what you've got here? And I'll summon everyone so you're kind of looking where I am just temporarily, and you can go off in a particular direction. Okay, thanks, Mary Beth, for coming. And yeah, you can watch the recording later. Thanks for coming. Just basically select something. If you train local workforce and build, I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go over here to step 4 down the lower left. I'm going to go ahead and put this where it says copy and paste your meh here, and go ahead and paste it there. So whoever had, if we train local workforce and build local production facilities, this is your starting point here, where I'm kind of have things highlighted. If I bring over, let's see, to retrofit housing structures so they are resistant to earthquakes, I'll copy that one and bring it down into here. And I should probably ungroup these. That way there's, oh no, somebody's already done retrofit. Yep, never mind. I didn't need to do that. And I'll ungroup some of this stuff. It's easier to get to. Okay. So if you, it looks like people are already getting there, but for the sake of example, what you're going to be doing is taking what you felt was an engagement hypothesis, how people would engage with your idea, and you're going to put it to specifics, testable specifics. So in the example that I have here, looks like I'm offline, so hang on. It suddenly kicked me out. Didn't like my engagement hypothesis or something. So what I have here is basically something that deals with what we did in the first part, part 1 that we did at the beginning of the month, where this is about a sales funnel for a solopreneur. And if you read the market engagement hypothesis, it's all about a collection of simple tools that would allow for minimal administrative tasks. So for this particular one, I put the when and the where, which is during the first 2 weeks of January 2021, my threshold is 10. The number I think would basically engage with this. Small business owners located in my hometown, which is Irving, Texas, would sign up for a trial to test a collection of simple business administrative tools. So it's general, but still much more specific than what I had here. It's a reflection of that. If you struggle sometimes with doing an XYZ, it's best to start with what they're going to do, and then the audience and how much. So you work actually backwards from W. So you start at Z and then work your way back all the way and then get to W last. And that does help in terms of writing out this kind of specific market engagement hypothesis, or sorry, the XYZ hypothesis that you're going to be creating for the market. So if I scroll down and go to, say, to retrofit housing structures so they are resistant to earthquakes and natural hazards. So far, it's in 20 municipalities with low income areas. 2 chairmen and multiple councilors are going to sponsor what looks like a 3D something, but that's still in progress. So when everyone gets done with their particular WXYZ hypothesis, we'll kind of read those off and just slightly tweak them a bit so they're more specific. But if you're currently typing those out, I'll stop talking so you can have the moment to do that. Okay, so the last one I was reading before is they're going to sponsor together a 3D factory. So they're basically going to invest in a 3D printing factory locally there. So the chairmen of municipal councils, that's who you're going after. Who was the author of this one, to retrofit housing structures?
It's me.
Okay. In 20 municipalities with low income areas, did you put 20 municipalities because you felt that chairmen of multiple municipal councils would have that sort of jurisdiction?
I was thinking about countries where these low-income areas are very frequent, where there are many areas like these, and they could join forces, resources, money, investigation, and sponsor such a project.
Okay. So the coverage in terms of the municipalities that's broad enough for this particular audience, is what you're thinking.
Sorry. those 20 it's because I was planning in having 10%, 10% skin in the game.
Okay.
I could
Okay.
have two, and having two, they feel the burden is less. Well, it's easy to pay, it's easy to share resources, and to have an impact and scale.
Do you think it would help if you actually lowered the number of municipalities in low income areas so that you could target particular ones and point out particular ones that need it more than others? Or do you think 20 is broad enough so you can have a wide coalition? I'm trying to get the strategy behind it.
Well, the strategy is that just it has to be something that hurts the community or the country, let's say. It has to be something that is significant, or the investment will not be considered relevant. But as I told you, I wrote 20 just because I was thinking about 10 of something, but it may be 10, let's say. I will approach.
But your initial thought is 20, which is fine. I was just wondering if there was a reason.
No, it was just the purpose of having 10 and 10%, and those 10% will be more than one.
Okay.
Just
okay. Sounds good. If we train the local workforce and build local production facilities, we can harvest waste material and locally produce cost-efficient filaments. So far, it looks like in the Philippines, in an area with lots of low-income homeowners and houses without foundations, 10% of these owners of houses without foundations will sign up for a trial where they contribute 40 working hours to build foundations for their homes and get trained in the waste-based 3D process. So not only are they contributing their email address that they're located in, but they're actually contributing their actual time. Like they're going to be donating their time as well. So it's kind of like a double ask here. Who's the person that authored this?
That's me, Verena. Yeah, I mean, this whole idea is about involving local people, right? And so the question is, if you're really in these low income areas, is it feasible to ask them? Is it more feasible to ask them for money, or can they more easily donate time to make this happen? So I wasn't sure. I actually know too little about this challenge to really know what's the best way to go here.
Okay, fair enough. And Mohammed, I think this one's yours, where you were thinking about 3D printing in terms of like a fast and effective solution that for high-tech structures that would complement the cement layers, increase resilience to earthquakes and other natural disasters. So you said in the Philippines in the first year, 10% of people in low-income areas, they'll provide a 3D cost-effective machine that uses local cement materials to build a home in an innovative structure. So the trick with the will do this is that there has to be some sort of skin in the game by the people that are going to be doing it. So are you saying that they're going to be, who's going to be providing that 3D tech cost-effective machine that you're thinking about?
It's basically the government or NGOs.
Okay. So would that change your audience? Instead of the people in low-income areas, would it basically be like those particular NGOs would be the ones providing them?
Yeah, so the government or NGOs will provide those machines to the people in low-income area, for low-income area.
Okay.
If I can reflect it like that.
Would you be, for this particular instance, would you be interacting with those individuals in the government, or would you be interacting with the low-income areas? It just depends on who you're asking the information or the commitment from. It sounds like the way you structured it that you're actually asking for the government to get involved, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, correct.
All right. So it involves them, but who is the government? Yeah, I was going to say you can change that to the government entity you were thinking about. Because the people in low-income areas are not going to be able to provide a 3D cost-effective machine. It's like they won't have the funding for it, but it's like who are you basically going to be catering to with your particular thought?
Exactly. So my thought, it's basically provided by the government or NGOs.
Right. So the more specific you can be here, the better, in terms of who you're going to be engaging with.
Okay. So maybe like these habitat organizations, or like, I don't know.
Well, all you really need to do is change this. So if you're talking about, and 10% of who in the NGO are you thinking of? Are you thinking about something that's like the founder of the NGO, or who specifically?
No, it's not a specific one, actually. So I thought of it like a general one.
Okay. And they'll be providing the 3D cost-effective machine?
Yes.
Okay. Would they provide the funding for that? Or would they provide the actual
Sure.
machine?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. They will provide the funding.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understood.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so the last
Thank
part
you.
of this, we have, oh, no problem. We have four, so we have three here. I'll take out the example one so we don't get that crossed. And bring this up a bit. Here. Hang on. It doesn't want to be removed. There you go. So we have three that we have as examples. I'll bring this down slightly. So if you're one of the authors of these, what I'd like you to do is go over to, actually, let's take this back. Let's kind of look over these three and see which one we would want to move forward with in terms of building an experiment with. The easy way to do it is just look over each of these three that are offered to you. And at the count of three, I want you to take your mouse and move in a circular fashion, kind of move it over the market engagement hypothesis that you think would be the one that you want to move forward with. So it can be the first one, the second one, or the third one. And just basically the way you do it in Miro is just basically like I'm doing, is just basically making a circular motion with your mouse. Okay? So for those of you who are on the whiteboard here, just on the count of three, go ahead and bring that over into those particular three the one that you'd like to do an experiment with, that you think that could be kind of move forward. So on the count of three, 1, 2, 3, go ahead and put your mouse over one of those market engagement hypothesis boxes, and we'll see which ones we want to move forward on there. So I'll summon everyone to where I'm at, just in case you're wondering what I'm talking about, is right here. So basically this one, or this one. Just put your mouse over that by basically moving like this, and that should do it. And if nobody puts their mouse over it, or if I can't see anything for some reason, the Miro's not showing me.
Yeah. It's not showing you because we are actually.
It's not showing mine.
It's not showing yours either? That's really weird. Hang on.
And
Maybe I have something select
broadcast
over
my
here.
My cursor.
I'm broken.
Yeah. Hang on. No, it should be okay. Hang on. Let me reset it again, or just let me refresh my browser to see if Miro kind of brings it back. Sometimes it does that. Okay, one more time. See if you can move your mouse and see if I can see it. Yep, I can see one. Okay, maybe it was just me. So go ahead and put your mouse over the market engagement hypothesis you want to move forward with. And got 2 on the top, 3 on the top, 1 on the bottom. Mohammed likes his. Okay, so we're going to basically do that first one. So let me go ahead and transfer things over. This will be our last experiment for the session. Bring this down here. I'll do, before I do that, let's give a little bit more space to this. Now, as we do this exercise, this is a casual one. This is just to kind of see how you would go about doing the experiment. Hang on. For some reason, it didn't want to stick. There we go. Okay. So what you want to do first is take a look at the prototypes that are listed here. There are 5. Then these come straight from the book. So these are all different options. There's a fake door, YouTube, provincial, MVP, and morsel. You can read the descriptions and the examples of each. What you want to do is choose one of these prototypes that you would probably do based on the idea that we've constructed here. And again, I'll copy over the context of these boxes. And this is just for your own purposes. We're not actually going to be doing this experiment in the future. So this is optional, but this is a way of saying, okay, if we were to look at this in the future and actually build this, which of these particular prototype options would I choose for a digital option? And what are the steps I would basically take in general? So there's 5 steps to actually build this prototype that you're thinking about, and when would you launch it? So this is just an example, experiential example to say if you were to do this. So if I want to make a compelling YouTube video, so my pretotype would be YouTube. And then my first step would be to construct a video, go through all the components. Then the launch date would probably be in April 2021. Like I want to get it done in the next 3 months at a maximum with my own time. So you can go ahead and put in whatever you'd like for those boxes. Again, this is just to showcase how you would approach building the experiment. And I'll just give a couple minutes to this. And after that, we'll leave a little bit of time for discussion and we'll wrap things up. So I'll actually take off the timer since there's one person working through it, which is fine. So what I'd like to do is take a step back while that one person is kind of working through their particular experiment and building it out. And I'd like to ask the panelists in general what they thought of this particular walkthrough exercise of pretotyping and how to build at least an initial experiment. You can tell me if this was helpful, if it was too general, if you wanted more specifics. What are some of your reactions to this particular walkthrough? And I'll start with Stefania, unless you're the person that's working on it.
Sorry.
Okay.
For me, it was very, very difficult because of the subject. I really don't know about building houses, 3D printing. So, but yes, I like to make it through the process because it's helpful for me. Yeah, but the subject was really hard.
Oh yeah, I mean, it just draws upon your personal experience, but you had to rely a lot on what other people had either seen or experienced. We had some people outside of the group basically put in their own information. So yeah, I totally get that I knew that when I put that up there, they're gonna be like, these people are gonna get lost really fast. You know, they're gonna drop on what they know. But that was kind of the whole point, in contrast to our first one, where it's like, okay, throw some topics on the wall and see what sticks. This is an actual challenge. But yeah, the draw to actually to get more information is real. You definitely want to get more understanding. Schumann, what are your thoughts about what we went through today?
Same with Stefania. The topic is quite difficult, but I think the process is pretty smooth for me. I think because it's been a long time, I didn't touch this prototype things, but once I stay like 10 minutes, and then I can really run. I know how you facilitate and how you use the templates. It's really smooth. I can understand, even it's hard to generate some ideas.
Okay, cool. By the way, there's somebody, I don't know who this was, but put in the Stanford Quick Reference Guide to Basic Pretotypes. So it has the complete collection of what's in the book, as well as the examples. And I'll zoom in on that. It's down here. You can also find this if you do a general search on the web, but this is based on something that came out about 4 years ago. But I've taken, this is pretty much all the different ones that were identified as pretotypes. So if you want to check those out, you can. It's over at the D School. Verena, what are your thoughts so far in terms of what you experienced this time around? Oh, your audio's out. It just went out. Okay, now it works. I think I can hear you. Nope, still out. Nope. Oh, now I see the light. You have the same headset that my wife does, so I know when it's actually functioning, when it's not. So there you go. Now I can
So
hear
now
you.
it works?
So keep your head perfectly still when you answer. Don't move it.
Okay. Does it work now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not moving.
It's okay.
No, I like the challenge. I like that it was a real challenge. Of course, I'm also not a subject matter expert. I like the clear guidance of the process. However, in this particular challenge, I felt like just pursuing the way of just looking at one target group may not be enough, because one needs to involve different target groups, right? You have the local homeowners that need to want to be a part of it. You have somebody to give the money for some big technology solution that probably none of the homeowners can afford by themselves. I don't know if that's if there's like examples for that in pretotyping, that you have like maybe you can have a combined target. You have to have your homeowners plus an NGO that gives the money plus a local community that supports in a certain way. Do you know of something like this, Robert?
Mostly in multiple tests. I've never seen a prototype that tries to handle multiple audiences and multiple end states, like what they're going to be donating or putting skin in the game for, because you won't be able to parse those out in terms of which experiments actually worked versus what they didn't. Yeah, I don't think you can take an overall process structure and put it into prototyping, but I do think you can kind of target particular engagements with prototyping so that you can see if you're optimizing for the right one, or choosing the right approach to getting certain things done with certain audiences. I think I could say that. Mohammed, what about you?
Yeah, so basically the format is like perfect and I like it very much. But I think I'm a kind of person of always doing some research whenever I'm doing anything related to workshop or any process. So I think this is why I stumbled a bit in the creating in XYZ Z hypothesis, because I didn't have the chance to research more on the topic, maybe generate some ideas to explore it in more details. So maybe if there is a part of saying like, okay, go make some research, example like the article I did, or I don't know, it would be more smoother and it will be more solid in the perspective of our input in there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm fully aware that the research element of this, or like the context, was missing. So it's kind of asking you to think of a broad solution for 25K or whatever it was, and figure out something based on your cursory knowledge of the space on what you think may work. And it's reflected in the solutioning, but at the same time, I'm seeing that the two prototypes that are listed here for provincial are diving into research and diving into figuring out what's what before to build the prototype. Like getting context from locals, looking at or talking to people in engineering on what they know. So it's really getting informed on some of this. Americo's solution is kind of speaking to this, and same with the one on the left for that's going there. So that need that the person who's doing the prototype is looking to get baked into the prototype as a process to creating something that people would react to. So it's pretty interesting. It's the lack of something, or the fact that something's not available is kind of making its way into the prototype. Americo, I think you're last to speak. So you have your provincial prototype kind of spelled out, where you're finding areas that relate to the problem. You speak with SMEs on engineering, create promotional and demo materials to let the community know about the initiative. You meet with them in the local places, and then subscribe a contract of engagement, so that you're getting social commitment through the route that you're thinking.
Yeah. Well, the process is great. I think we are. I think we are too much connected with the digital solutions, and this was one of those cases where digital will not likely work. This will have to be something community-centered. And I posted the quick reference guide because I was looking for more face-to-face or more down-to-earth solutions, no digital. But it's still difficult because the prototyping as a technique evolved too much for the digital area and forgot issues like this one where digital will not work.
Yeah, that's my fault for putting those examples up there. In hindsight, I could have put in like a wide variety of physical if I knew that the challenge is physical. So I kind of threw everybody for a loop. It's like, think digitally, but it has to basically work in a local context. So I understood why you kind of went in the route that you did.
Yeah, that's it. But this was great. It was really great because it pushed me to think out of the digital world. And I think that many business solutions start not only the digital, but in face-to-face relationships and in a given circle of trust, where you need to experiment your value propositions. And well, each session of these experiments, I love it because I develop myself in ways that I was not expected to do to develop, and I'm great.
I'm very happy to hear it.
Yeah.
So for reference, those types of challenges, the challenge that you experience with Habitat for Humanity is something that's going to color GVDS 6. So there's going to be these actual proposed challenges in the wild from organizations that are going to be as a sub list for participants to choose from. So you're actually going to be engaging with a potential socially impacting audience. And then that'll give people the opportunity to do the research, to kind of go through the motions, to use pretotyping and design sprints or lean to explore a solution so that at the end of the month, you can actually present not just to a general audience, but for the audience that's interested in the solution. So just put a little bit of a bookmark for that one. Anyway, we are at time, so I don't want to delay anyone who has to go. I know a few people had to do before. I'm going to stop the share on my side. I want to thank everyone who tuned in on the attendee side, as well as the panelists that came over to make this a really special kind of exploration into the space. Thank you so much for being part of it. Again, as is custom, there's going to be some sort of themed shot at the end, so everyone's basically part of it. So since we've been talking about structures and building things, try to find something in your environment that you would use to build things. And I know where I'm going to go. So my son has a ton of Legos, so I'm going to be right back and grab something. So if you can take something that you would build with or write with, something you can construct something with. Take 30 seconds. Actually, I'm going to use wrapping paper since this is something that we're currently doing right now, and we're constructing new things with wrapping paper. Right? Yeah. Glue stick. Okay, I got to go where Stefani is because I need the glue stick to make this thing work. All right. Okay, that works too. Oh no, it's disappearing. You got to put it right in your. You got to put it in your face, Mohammed. Otherwise, it's going to disappear. All right, are you ready? One, and there's Legos. There you go. 1 and 2 and 3. All right. Thank you so much for being part of it. I hope you have a good rest of the week. We are doing another one tomorrow for design sprints and pretotyping combined, so that should be pretty interesting. In the meantime, you all have a good day, and we'll see you hopefully tomorrow. But if not, you have yourself a good holiday, and thank you very much for participating and looking in on this. All right?
See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye,